Howdy, folks. This is Ted Lasso, your favorite optimistic American football coach turned English football coach. And welcome to the Richmond Way, a Ted Lasso Rewatch podcast. So grab your biscuits, put on your AFC Richmond scarf, and let's embark on this journey together.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Richmond Way. This is going to be our episode for season 2, episode 7 of Ted Lasso. Mike has a tum ache this week, so he's not here.
Too much Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike.
or as some people call it, Taco Hell. With us, as per usual, is Bonnie Maria Williams, somewhere on the screen or in your ear holes.
In your ear holes, which is where they pay me to be, but not on this show.
For
in
extra,
some hole.
Yeah, for extra ear hole
That's
action,
what they said.
Go to patreon.com/the Richmond Way. And then our guest this week from Geek the F Out channel is Kayla.
Hello. Excited to be here.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
That's what they said. I'm just going to keep doing that.
We'll make
I
our
got
own
him
list.
now. I got him now. I'm making my list now. I'm going to be insufferable this episode. My apologies. I'm not sorry. We're all friends here.
Yes.
So we started doing this recently, where we've been asking people kind of what their last Ted Lasso origin is, like how they got in the show. So what is how did you get into the show? How did you first come to it? Did someone tell you to watch it, or did you just come along to it yourself?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to remember. I think I heard about it through Jay and Colleen, who you had on, through their community that I'm also a part of. I think a lot of people in there were talking about how good it was. I think it was through them because I don't know. I think some of my friends watch it, but I don't know. I don't talk about shows as much with my real life friends versus my internet friends. But yeah, I don't think I watched it while the first season was going. I think I watched it after the first season, from what I remember. Yeah, and I just fell in love with it.
Nice.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, I don't think any of us that do this show watched the first season live when it was airing. Yeah, because
Nope.
Bonnie was made to watch it.
Yep.
And then our mutual friend Factor showed. I've said this one before, but showed me a clip of Coach Beard doing the Doc Brown impersonation. I was like, oh, they made a Back to the Future reference on the show. I'll watch that show, and that's why
You had me at Back to the Future.
Yeah. Ronald Reagan, the actor. So that's what got me to watch the show. So this episode that we're talking about this week is season 2, episode 7. It's called Headspace. It aired all the way back in September of 2021. In the brief synopsis for this episode is that Ted begins to slowly work on his anxiety issues with Dr. Sharon. Nathan struggles with criticism and lashes out in an ugly way. Meanwhile, Roy and Keeley struggle over a need for space until Roy gets advice from an unusual source.
That little flair you added right there. That was nice. An unusual source. That was nice. I appreciated that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Now, I know, because I can see our Google Doc. People listening can't.
No, that's only if you subscribe to the Patreon.
Yeah,
we'll give you access.
Yeah,
Viewer only.
Yeah.
No editor access.
Yeah. I did notice that at least Bonnie and I had similar notes about the episode title. Kayla kept her notes to herself, so I don't know.
Yes, I did.
She also has the same idea. But Bonnie, what did you have on there for what you thought the episode title kind of thematically wise fit for this episode?
Thematically speaking, no. It's a roast
was a
on my little sister.
This was a college thesis paper. What would it what would the four?
Don't make me write a thesis. I don't want to even
God.
pretend to have that much student loan debt. Even just for the bit. So
You're lucky.
yeah, well, not for a master's degree. We're not
Mm.
doing that right now. You don't need a master's degree to be an actor. And to all my actor friends that have done that, I'm so sorry. That's not against you. I just don't have the time. So they're all dealing with issues taking up the space in their heads. You have Keeley needs space from Roy and not talking about it with him. I said, I think she anticipated him reacting that way. We're not going to get me started on Carrie Bradshaw because of that specific episode of Sex and the City. I think Aiden was way too good for Carrie, but we'll go into that tangent later. Carrie is not the best character on Sex and the City. We'll get there. I also said that Nate's dad is taking up his headspace, and both Rebecca and Sam are so in their heads about responding to a freaking text message on an app. And, people need space, and that should be respected. That's my thoughts on the episode.
Nice.
Summarized in a Cliff's Notes sort of fashion.
Yeah, there you go.
Not in a thesis.
Yeah. How about you?
With the title or the whole episode? I thought we were just doing
first, for the title, first year. Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, that's all related to the title.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at your notes, and I I get all of that, but my first thought was the app Headspace, which I don't know if anyone.
Therapy app, right?
Yes, it's a therapy
Yeah.
app. Well, it's also a meditation app too. And my meditation class teachers, I kept seeing them for a while, like doing little meditation sessions for a while after I took their class. And I think they told me about it in one of those sessions. And I used it for I don't know, maybe a year or two, as I was getting into meditation more. And it's really good, but obviously it's a focus on your headspace and getting that together. And obviously in this episode there's a lot of that, most poignantly with Ted and trying to go to therapy. But yeah, overall in general, I feel like this was a good episode, but also very hard to watch, especially with Ted's scenes. I think because I've been going to therapy, it'll be 10 years now since I've been going to therapy. And for me, when I first started going, it was just something that I needed to do. And luckily I had a family friend who was a therapist, so I started seeing him. So it was a little bit easier for me than it is with a lot of people. And me being the very self-aware, psychoanalytical person that I am, that made it a little bit easier, I think, to get into it. So it was hard for me to see him struggle with that so much. And I get it. And it was interesting to see him say a lot of things that people who don't want to go to therapy will say, oh, it's it really doesn't do anything. I'm paying them to do nothing. I can just talk to my friends, blah, blah, blah. All the excuses he was kind of making throughout the episode, when in reality, I just wanted to shake him and be come on, bro. if you're I was about to say teammates, if the players are going and they're saying how good it is, I don't know, maybe look to them, because I feel it's usually the opposite way. The kids don't want to do it, but the adults will do it. So I just found that interesting that it didn't quite hit him. It kind of hit him when they were getting help, but at the same time, I don't know, he was still so against it. So yeah.
And I think part of that, to piggyback off of that, I think it was interesting to watch his reactions for sure. The part with him on the couch and trying to get comfortable, I was I know exactly what he's doing. But it was a great bit of physical comedy, even though he was so uncomfortable, but like that's one of the things is we will laugh at people in the media who are so physically uncomfortable and they're making a
Mhm.
joke out of it, even though it's that like we'll laugh, but that's because it resonates too, like an uncomfortable laughter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because people will say like I'm fine, I don't need therapy, and it's like jokes on you. Everybody needs therapy cuz
Mhm.
we all have stuff. Like what do they say
Yep.
about life? Like nobody makes it out alive, right? Like we don't go through
Nope.
life unscathed. And it being in therapy doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It's just
Mhm.
helping you approach things differently or process things differently or help you label things you've been through. But there's that vulnerability. You have to kind of just be willing to go in and be like, I'm open to hearing what's wrong. I'm
Mhm.
open to being vulnerable with somebody I don't know and then admitting, yeah, maybe not everything's okay. And that's where I think a
Mhm.
lot of that is there with Ted. It's easier to laugh and to make jokes because that's what he
Yeah.
does. But the vulnerability of like having to be real with somebody that you don't feel like you can let your guard down for because they're just getting paid is very, very
Yeah.
true. And I think that really resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, Dr.
Mhm.
Sharon even says to him like later in the episode, uh, "Would you do what you do for free?" And he's like, "Yeah." She's like, "But do you?" He's like, "No."
Mhm.
Would you care any less about them? So and he's like, yeah, all right, good point."
Mhm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so like kind of saying like what you were saying there too is like the same way people like he's because he's like training the team like physically to be in a certain condition to be able to do what they need to do. So if
Yep.
you think of that like a if you think of a therapist like a physical trainer but for your mind, it's the
Yep.
same kind of thing. It's like you're going to the gym but for your brain. So
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. We're
yeah,
going to get physicals, but for your brain.
Yeah.
yeah,
And when
that
he
too.
said, like, you don't care, that's. Whoa.
Sorry.
Exactly. Well, that was my reaction to that. You don't care. Um, my former therapist, who I have not been her client for a few years now, since I moved back to LA, she emailed me during the fires and said, "Hey, I'm seeing what's going on out there. Like, I'm praying for you and I'm thinking of you and I hope you're doing okay. Like, I can't imagine what you must be going through right now." She didn't have to do that. I haven't paid her
Mm-mm.
in years. But, and Dr. Sharon reminds me so much of her where I was like, "Ted, you be nice to that woman."
I
Like
know. Like
Yeah.
she's just trying to help you. And
Mhm.
it's interesting how much she like I love how much she observes and just kind of lets things happen and like takes it all in because um I feel like that's such a big part of being a therapist. I wouldn't know, I'm not one, but just from going to therapy is like most of my sessions have just been like I just talk, like kind of how Jamie is like I just talk about myself the whole time. That sounds great, but
Yeah.
not in that way. Not in the Jamie Tart way, but like how a lot of times they observe and you know it can very much be about what's not said or the way you say things, like what you include in talking about things. And so her like watching the team practice and all that stuff, or just in her one-on-one sessions, particularly with Ted, and just how, just seeing him like fidget on the couch,
Yeah.
which I also very much related to because like I cannot sit still. So I was like, I get that he was stalling, but also I was like, I relate to that.
Yeah, I had
Mhm.
that in my notes. I was like, "Oh, look at Ted being super awkward and trying to get comfortable and everything, and just delaying talking about certain things to his therapist. Hey, look, it's me." Uh, but
Mhm.
um, but kind of what I thought was interesting too is that he even like kind of tries to deflect a thing too that he says to Dr. Sharon when he says something about like at the end you're just going to tell me it's my folks' fault, which is just funny as if we call forward. We'll eventually find out it is kind of Ted's parents' fault because uh, spoiler alert to what happened to Ted's dad. And Ted being the first one to find him after his dad did that. And then the way that we find out eventually near the end of season 3 that like his mom just kind of tried to act like everything was all right and like not talk about any of that stuff, which was kind of made Ted the way he kind of is about therapy too. So even though he did say that to Dr. Sharon as a way to be like, oh, you're just gonna like as like a stereotype kind of thing, it actually is kind of sort of actually is kind of sort of their fault in a way, or at least the origin point of like where his stuff comes from.
And do you think he knew that? And that's why he kind of said it as like a half truth of like, you're just going to say it's my parents' fault. So why am I here? I already know it is. So why am I here?
Yeah, because we've had that little bit
Probably.
like the few episodes ago where he was talking to like Rebecca, or like where Rebecca like analyzed herself and like pretty much like said her whole issues, and like he's like, yeah, there you go. But I just thought that was interesting.
You can know it. You can know the reason. And this is something I've learned because, like I said before, very self-aware and psychoanalytical. Like, I know things that have happened to me. I know the trauma that I've had, but like that doesn't necessarily mean that I've like dealt with it, processed it, whatever, needs to be done with it. So it's one thing to like be aware of something that's happened and like all that, but like it's another thing to work through it and figure out how that affects you, how that changes things going forward, all that stuff. So
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's like one of the like going off of what you had said a little while ago, Bonnie, is like I had some of the similar stuff in there too for the episode title. Like the stuff I just added in there was you said the stuff about Rebecca and Sam kind of like being super hung up about like she's like about like what to respond back to, and then getting hung up on him having his favorite film be Ratatouille, which reminded me like how many animated film references there are in the show, and then just like Keeley, but like is like Ratatouille is a great film.
Yes, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah. And then just like Sam and like the rest of like the footballers like being hung up on like the 3 dots showing up.
Yep.
And then going
Which
away.
I definitely related to that. I was like, there's been so many times I've seen those 3 dots and then nothing. And then I'm like, well, fuck me.
I think we've all been there. Yeah. In that space. But then I think you get to a certain point where you're just saying, okay, just write back something. Just, just communicate, which there would be no TV if people just communicated like adults. There would be no conflict. There would be no drama. We would have no storylines if people just communicated, because then it wouldn't be an extraordinary hour of TV. We wouldn't have a storyline. It would just be a podcast.
I don't know if either of you have seen Normal People on Hulu. It's with what's his face?
I was gonna say I thought you meant like in real life.
That's what I thought too. I was like, no, I've been looking for those.
It's like, who I'm friends with.
Who's
so no,
Normal?
I have not seen Normal.
I live in Los Angeles. Absolutely not.
It's with what's his face from excuse me, sir. Paul Mescal. Yeah. And then what's the girl's name? She was in dang it. I don't know.
The girl in the thing.
The girl in the thing and the thing and the thing, and I'm gonna IMDb this because
Daisy Edgar Jones.
There we go.
Thank you. I just looked it up. Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, that whole show. Holy shit. I'm like, just communicate. Like literally just communicate and like all your problems will be gone. Like it was like, it's such a good show, but like so frustrating to watch because you're just like, if you just communicated, it's a whole thing.
Sure.
But good show. I would still recommend it.
Yeah. And that like kind of going off that too is the Roy and Keeley thing in there too, like about the physical space, but then also allowing each other like a healthy amount of independent space so that they can practice secure attachment to one another.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they're not just like up each other's butts, but like in a bad
Butts.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it was the other way, they wouldn't probably show that on Ted Lasso. I feel like that's maybe the parody.
That's Ted
Peg
Asso.
Lasso.
Dead ass.
Yeah, no, oh yeah, there you go. Never mind. Yep. That was better.
Mhm.
That was better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I live in LA. We have those things everywhere. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that was an interesting and Keeley talking to everybody else about it
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of just talk. But again, if you have somebody that is not open to receiving that, like I don't think Roy was completely receptive to that kind of feedback, and
I
she
mean,
probably anticipated him going
yeah.
off the way he did and then giving the silent treatment. Like, damn it, Roy,
Uh,
I'm rooting
the
for you. Don't
worst.
do that. It's the worst.
I mean,
I didn't like that.
we know Roy also has to go to therapy too, so
Yes.
Yeah.
which he eventually will, but
Spoiler
Not yet.
alert. Yeah,
Yeah.
not yet.
speaking of people that also need to go to therapy, the stuff with Nate in this too is also like with him like being super in his head about like needing like you said with like the validation and just
Mhm.
kind of doing the bad thing with looking up yourself on the internet
Yeah.
with him like just like getting because I mean like we see the interaction he has with his dad at the beginning of this
Yep.
and like it doesn't seem like he got like validation that he wanted from his dad while he was growing up, so like now he's
Yeah.
looking for it in places that he
Yep.
shouldn't be looking for it, and
That
that's
is
also why
exactly what I put in my notes.
I mean that's also why like he attached himself so much to like Ted during the first season too, because he was like finally like someone like noticed him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like again calling forward, and that's kind of where I can see like at least in Nate's head like how like at least he'll reason to himself with why he ends up like lashing out to Ted later on in the season and the rest of the team.
Mhm.
I'm not saying
Colin
it's
during
correct,
this
but I can
episode.
see why he connects the A to B in his head for
Mhm.
that, and just like he can't even like being willing to admit like he like messed up stuff like with the whole like Wonderkind thing, and like just getting like pissed when people say the Wonder Kid thing. He's like, I'm pretty sure I said Wonderkind, but then like as you get like into like more of the episode, I have like more notes about the stuff with like Colin again, but like and just like lashing out at Colin and Will, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of projection of his insecurities, as well as the stuff with his dad
Mhm.
on Colin. That is pretty much exactly what I put in my notes to say about that.
Yeah.
And yeah, looking for validation in all the wrong places. And then there's a sprinkle of letting fame get to him as well
Mhm.
in there
Yeah.
for sure.
Like, Nate, don't read your reviews. Coming as
Yeah.
it's great. Like, I'm in the actor space. When you get a great review and like an audiobook you've done or something, it's great. But there are people who are going to hate what you put out
Oh, yeah.
because they don't like your voice. They don't like whatever. And you really, the one bad review, if you let it, will set you off. Like, you
Yeah.
have to find the validation mostly from inside
Yourself.
because
Yep.
I'm in a profession where you're selling yourself and not in
Yeah.
that sense, but like it's easy when you're selling a product because if somebody's like, oh, I don't like the smell of lavender, I'm not going to buy your soap. But when you're an actor, you are selling yourself as your services, and it's far more personal when somebody doesn't like what you do. You don't get hired,
Yeah.
and you have to validate yourself on the days where you're not getting those jobs you audition for, or you're not getting a call back for that. You have to validate yourself and go, okay, just because I'm not the right fit for that doesn't mean I'm any less worthy. But if you're constantly seeking that outside validation from other people, you're never going to get it because you'll never
Yeah.
feel good enough for this person. Like, he's probably never felt good enough for his dad, and he's probably chased that his whole life.
Yeah.
And that's why we see what happens with him later. So, like, as much as I want to be mad at Nate, and I will be, Like 75% of the time, there's that 25% where it's like, I feel for you. You're just hurting
Yeah.
and you don't have the emotional regulation skills to properly communicate those feelings and that
Yeah.
hurt. So you're going
Exactly.
about it in all sorts of willy-nilly ways where you should just get your ass in a therapy chair, but it's fine.
Just
Yep.
like Jamie. Just like Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Which
Exactly.
I mean, the show, it's not like you can't just square it down to one thing, but like the show is kind of like about father issues, more or less. Like Jamie and
All
his dad.
cowboys have daddy issues.
Yeah, all the best cowboys have daddy issues.
Mhm.
But yeah, like with that too, like what you're saying, like is like the person you have to love the most is yourself, because that's the longest relationship that you have in life.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then like even doing, like you were saying, like don't read reviews, is like doing a podcast like this or being on YouTube and stuff like that. Again, you'll get the random, be like,
Oh my
whatever.
God.
Yeah. So
My favorite was when a man tried to mansplain misogyny to me.
that sounds like a joke that would have been in the Barbie movie.
Probably.
Just because it sounds.
I will know. It's funny because like the rest of them were just like stupid, especially because like we talk about Trek, just like stupid people. I don't know, just saying stupid shit. And there's the one it's to me, I just laugh at it. Like I obviously don't care. But I just thought it was so funny. I was like, the irony of this is just great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure
But,
you
yeah.
two get much worse and different kinds of comments.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
Great.
I apologize for my
Barbies
entire
in a-
gender.
Well, you should, because
Yeah.
what did you guys do to deserve Jonathan Bailey? That's all I'm asking. What did you guys do? I don't know.
Right?
It's hard being a Barbie living in a Mojo Dojo Casa House world. It's
Life's-
rough out here.
Life's more
It's
painless
rough out here.
for the brainless.
Yeah, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
well.
interesting being on the internet and seeing people's people. That's all. People.
Fuck the patriarchy.
To quote Chris O'Dowd from the IT crowd, people, what a bunch of
Bunch of
bastards.
bastards. I love that show.
Yeah.
Uh,
We'll find out about that show soon enough. But
that's a good one. Yeah.
What I like too is that Ted has also made, like, I'm assuming maybe Roy wasn't as avid of a reader before Ted came around, but now it seems like he's been just like reading it every time we kind of see him every once in a while. But like he's super into the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
And like a few years late there, Roy, but
Hey, can read anytime.
and he must
Knights
have
of Templar are for everybody.
and he must have never saw the movie too, because he's like reading the book and he's like,
Yeah. I was wondering that too. I was like, maybe he didn't see her, maybe he didn't remember, or I don't know.
but I just thought that was funny. And I liked how they also, I thought they might have, I mean, I'm sure because it's so layered and they do stuff like this on purpose with like using I've Got You Babe for the opening song. And also like kind of then working that into Keeley's headspace of feeling kind of like overwhelmed and like repeating kind of things over and over in a way, which so I was like, wonder if they're going for that slight Groundhog Day vibe there by using that song for people that would know that like every time Bill Murray wakes up in Groundhog Day, that's the song that's playing.
Probably.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it that way. I was just like, oh, Sonny and Cher, that relationship did not last. And he took a lot of her money, but Cher's still kicking. So
yeah,
that's all.
Cher looks fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I could make a very morbid joke about Sonny's headspace.
Ooh, Marc.
But I'll just
Better
move
be careful.
on
His
there.
ghost is going to get you.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll just say that I get that morbid sense of humor from my dad. So thanks, Dad.
Oh, yeah, same. Probably was Groundhog Day now that you say that. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It feels like with the people who write the show that like they would try to make like a just a very sly Groundhog Day reference with that.
Yeah,
And I
like every
And
day's the
also for
same and he's still
anyone,
there.
yeah, also for anyone who's seen it, it might be like subconsciously in there. So like when
Yeah.
you watch those scenes, you're like, you get that vibe without realizing it, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Subliminal
Yeah.
messaging.
I know that
Yeah,
I did.
they know what they were doing with the music choice. Yeah.
Oh,
'Cause if you have to
definitely.
go through all the hassle of getting clearance to use it, you're probably not going to just
Oh,
pick
yeah.
something random if you have to go through the legal avenues and then getting
Shit
the
ain't
rights
cheap.
and doing all that. Yeah, exact. Especially for that. That's how
Mhm.
Cher's got all that money now. So she's worth it though.
Get
Give her
that bag,
everything.
girl. Get that
Get
bag.
that bag.
If she could turn back time, she'd find a way.
Mhm. When do we get the sequel to Burlesque, though? I'm asking the real questions. We need more wagon wheel Watusi. That's what we need.
I mean, the genie's already been let out of the bottle.
Genie in a bottle, baby.
Christina Aguilera was in that movie too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
You're
that right.
correct.
Everybody's in that movie.
Yeah.
Kristen Bell is in that movie.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Quick aside,
about that.
Bonnie, if you don't watch Severance,
Mark, I don't
Kristen-
watch any shows except for ours because I'm so behind on everything. But continue.
You need to watch Severance.
also on Apple TV, but Kristen Bell was on the official podcast for Severance recently
With her husband.
with Dax
That's-
Shepard, and she does a spot on Patricia Arquette as
Oh, hi,
Patricia
Marc.
Arquette's where she's like, "Oh, Marc." So
Because the main
Awesome.
character's name is
Yeah.
Marc.
and it was funny to hear Kristen Bell say my name that many times, and it, like
Say my name,
but-
say my
but as
name.
Patricia Arquette. But it was weird. Like it sounded like if I didn't know that was Kristen
It's
Bell,
creepy.
I would have thought it was Patricia Arquette.
Yeah.
She was a great
It's
job.
on my list. I love Adam Scott. It's on my list.
You should
I'm still
put
catching up on the
top of
Penguin.
your list.
I'm watching. Once I get through the Penguin, but I'm watching the Penguin and the
Oh,
Bear.
I love the Penguin.
So yeah, I'm
good.
trying. It's lots of late nights. We're
You know
getting there.
how I'll loop this back around to Ted Lasso? Adam
You'll find a
Scott
way.
was Griff in Boy Meets World. Boy Meets World had an episode written by Bill Lawrence.
He
Bill
was in
Lawrence
Boy Meets World.
is a producer, on Ted Lasso.
Tell me you
There
didn't
we
have
go.
cable without telling me you didn't have cable growing up.
I mean, Disney Channel was one of those channels that like you got it free for a weekend, and you're like, okay, I'm watching it free this weekend, and then you had to pay for it again if you wanted to watch it again.
It was
That-
not a thing for me. It was whatever the antenna got.
Nice.
Mm.
We had giant antenna on the roof because we were in the woods.
Very nice. But
All right,
I
Mark,
think
bring us back to Ted Lasso
Okay.
since you're trying so hard.
I think I said this before, but like I really want this freaking jacket that Nate has too. It's like
Which
a
jacket
windbreaker
does he
jacket
have?
that's got like the plaid like lining into it, but it's not like the puffy jacket that Ted has. It's not like the
Okay.
track jacket, but it's like it's like I want the jacket. They don't sell any of this stuff. but
Maybe one day.
maybe I'll have to email or message Paul Cripps, although he's the production designer, not the costume or wardrobe.
Yeah. He's not probably might be able to direct you who to go to,
Yeah.
but wouldn't be able to give you the specifics.
Or maybe Mary Roscoe has one and she'll sell it, and I can give the money to the charity that she has for that.
That works too. Yeah.
But now, do you guys know who the Jerky Boys are?
No.
I'm gonna Google it to see if I do.
I might, but
So this is like the scene a little bit later in the episode, because we've already kind of talked about Nate with his dad and Ted with Sharon on the couch, but where he's talking about like, don't ever give out your number or your address, because then you'll have a SWAT team and or like pizzas or stuff showing up at your house. And he's like talking about, it's like that all got 86 with prank calls. It's like when we lost the Jerky Boys, they were a national treasure. But
Oh
like
my
if
god, I think I remember them.
Yeah, I remember because that's all my dad would listen to in the car for years. But like if people have seen like Crank Yankers, which was the puppet show on Comedy Central, um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it
that
was
was not a Muppet production.
yeah
Yeah.
puppet. Yeah, so it's not quite a mop and it's not quite a puppet, but man, uh, that's a little Simpsons reference for me. But I mean that show is basically the same idea as the Jerky Boys, where they would like just do like these prank calls and like you know. So yeah, like Ted said in the episode, Google it. You'll have fun for hours listening to old Jerky Boys stuff on there. Uh, and I don't have this in my quotes later on, but I just thought this was kind of interesting where Ted's like, I don't want to see you all with your tired faces. What kind of face do I want to see on them, coach? Game face, brr. Like darn tootin' Vladimir Putin. And I was like, it's like
Yeah.
So many good
Yikes.
Tedisms. But
Yeah.
also, maybe don't say that.
Yeah. Now this will bring us back to the Rebecca Keeley Higgins kind of discussion, like up in her office there. Like they have the whole discussion about like Ratatouille in there.
Mhm.
Now, what do you guys think about the scene? There's again, like I always pinpoint kind of like the quotes that Higgins says, because Ted will have like the rousing kind of like long like uplifting speeches, but I find Higgins has the like the shorter kind of more inspirational kind of one-liner kind of things that he
Mhm.
says.
Yeah, he's got some
I
bangers.
feel like Higgins kind of cuts through the bullshit.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like because I ended up rewatching everything up until this point, and with Beard and approaching him with his and Jane's issues, which I'm like, they really need to not be together. Jesus Christ. So toxic.
The only couple on the show that gets married.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially because I just watched the episode where where she is hanging out with Finn, the like underwear model, and he's like, okay. I'm like, bro, come on. And she's like stalking in the parking lot too. Anyways,
Wait
yeah,
until
I
you
feel
get to
like
Beard After Hours and the chain text that she sends Beard in that one.
I vaguely remember that from when I first watched. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
We'll
funny
get
how
to that in
like
a few
people
weeks.
don't like that episode, and I'm like, I really liked that one from what I remember. I thought it was a
Episode's
lot
awesome.
of fun. Yeah.
But I'm
But
biased.
yeah, I feel like Higgins cuts through the bullshit. And I do love Keeley's line of "Go fuck your cartoon rat."
Oh yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Mhm.
Which we get the other rat reference at the end of the episode with Roy talking about clearing out all of his hair from the drain,
Oh yeah.
and it looked like a rat drowned in there. He said.
Mhm.
So,
That is a hairy man. Yeah.
He is hairy.
well,
That
yeah,
is
the
my
open
first
of the episode of like his
comment.
freaking chest.
I forgot how hairy he was. Robin
Mhm.
Williams could never.
Not
Yeah.
saying something. Yeah.
Yeah. I think also because Roy's hair is just darker too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then we'll eventually also get the joke in season 3 where Rebecca's like tells Roy to get his hairy ass up to her office, and he gets upset that nobody defends. He's like, "You all know that I don't, and I will never forgive you." But,
I forgot about that. That's funny.
which then all I could picture of it, Rob Schneider sucks, but all I could think of was the movie The Animal, and there's a shot of
Mhm.
him from the back, and his just ass is like fully hair, just like covered in hair. So that's all I could think. But
Ew.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, you can just say that for Rob Schneider to just say ew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was probably very upset about the Hollywood trio of people that got picked to represent Hollywood in Washington D.C. recently. It's all I'll
I
say.
can't right now, Mark.
Yeah.
I can't.
But
I can't right now.
Yeah. Speaking of like Higgins with his stuff cutting through the
Like,
the bullshit.
speaking of what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cutting through the bullshit. I like his line there where he's like, "My relationship is the oxygen that gives me life."
Yeah.
And then
So
Rebecca's like,
wholesome.
except for Higgins, whose relationship is a Hallmark card.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
like both very sweet, but I'm like, it borderlines a little bit too much on being like codependent on someone else to like breathe and live. I was like, it's a sweet sentiment, but like scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rides a
Mm,
line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it's
Mhm.
like, yeah.
Like I think
Although
he's
I
just being
think, yeah.
poetic with it, you know.
Yeah.
At least I hope so.
Yeah. And like this is one of the like 2 or 3 times that like Roy walks. I think it's the first time in the episode
Mm-hmm.
that
Because
Roy
he walks
walks in.
in on
Yeah,
them there, and then when they're in the
the boot
shoe
room.
room.
The
Yeah.
boot room. It's the boot
Boot
room in the
room.
UK.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Uh,
Their
but yeah,
shoes.
yeah. But where they start jazz scatting. He's like, "Were you jazz scatting?"
Mm-hmm.
And
And
then
then they continue to do it
yeah,
after they leave.
which I like that they kind of also kind of calls back a little bit to like just Higgins being into jazz a lot, and then slapping the bass.
Mm,
But this is also in the scene too where I noticed this. It becomes like a kind of running. It's not like a gag, but it's like a running thing where like Ted was the first one that kind of introduced the term "big whoop" to
mhm.
the team. We've heard him say it, obviously. I believe Rebecca has said it at least once now on the show too. But
Mhm.
then we also hear Roy say it in this episode too. So I think it's kind of funny how we slowly see like Ted like leaking into the rest of the team in that way, and just like matter of fact of like
Ted is
the
leaking into
like
the
little.
team. What medical issue does he have?
Well, he's mostly leaking into Sassy, but
Ew.
yeah,
I mean, at this point, it was only once that we know
5
of.
stars, certified fresh.
Although, didn't she say that, like in the episode that she comes back, she was like, "Oh, it was actually like on my stomach." And Rebecca's like, "Please stop."
Yeah, please do not tell me. But yeah, speaking of people running into each other, I like when Sam and Rebecca are walking down the hall there, and they're
Mhm.
both like looking that
At
like
banter.
spoiler that we know that they're talking to each other,
Yeah.
and that they physically run into each other, and then like Sam has the whole line about like we spend all this time like I don't remember the exact line, but he's like we spend all this time with people, but
We're
not
connected, but we're
yeah
so far apart. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
Yeah,
you
Yep.
you have no idea, Sam. You're
Mm-hmm.
talking to her. Look at
Also,
her
her
screen
name is
name.
like Boss
Yeah,
Girl. Like, come on.
yeah.
Come on.
Which also is a reference to You've Got Mail. Like his username is a reference to Tom Hanks's, or like a spin on Tom Hanks's handle, and then hers is a spin on Meg Ryan's, which is like Shop Girl,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So it's like a slight little You've Got Mail thing
Nice.
going on there.
Huh.
Nice. Love
If I
that.
believed in rom-coms, I would have gotten that, but I don't.
I
That's fine.
believe in communism.
Yeah. It's all right.
Now,
There's some that are good, but
Wait,
it's
do you
fine.
also hate Valentine's Day?
Generally, yeah.
Yes, I love you. Okay, good.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I don't know. I've spent it single most of my life, so I've never understood, like, just get the half-price chocolates the next day. Go to town.
And also, it's like there's so much couples privilege in this world. Like, do we really need another day? And it's such a Hallmark holiday. And I'm like, you have so many important relationships in your life, not just the romantic ones. Like, why don't we celebrate all of them? So
Mm-hmm.
that's been my spin on it the last like, I don't know, 5 or so years. I'm like, I want to celebrate like all the different relationships I have in my life, not just
Valentine's Day.
romantic.
Galentine's Day is great. And you know what we
Yeah.
should have instead of Valentine's Day? We should have Galentine's Day. And then the
Yes.
next day should be either second
Valentine's Day?
Halloween or
Oh,
Halloween in the winter.
Ooh,
That's what I think.
winter
It
wing.
should
Love.
be a second Halloween.
Wait,
Winterween. Oh, hello.
That's
Oh.
what they said.
yeah, yeah,
Winter wiener.
yeah. Okay.
What?
Uh,
Trying to bite
speaking
me.
of that, Colin, I don't know.
Marc.
He's a strong and confident man. Colin is a
Mhm.
strong, and confident man. That's his mantra. Okay.
Oh,
Little
yeah.
guy. Little buddy.
Which I thought out of anyone, Beard would be more understanding of like him having mantras, because I feel like Beard would be more into, spiritual, that kind of side of things.
Yeah.
But he was like, okay, and I'm like, why are you being so judgy about it? You do some weird ass fucking shit, bro. Like, Beard is kinky as fuck. Let's be
Mhm.
honest.
Yep.
He got paid to bite
Absolutely.
somebody.
Yep.
So,
Mhm.
but yeah, like this. So like this whole scene, like Colin like trying to extend like an olive branch, or like trying to Nate, like trying to like figure out, like, because he thought that like he had apologized, like for like the way he had been to Nate, and like because it was like him, Isaac, and Jamie, mostly like back in season 1, and
Mhm.
since then it's like any of the times that Nate has like lashed out at any of them, it's still only like hyper focused on Colin. He doesn't do it still to Isaac. He doesn't do it to Jamie. But still,
Yeah.
like
I wonder why it's specifically Colin.
Hmm.
I
I
was
don't know.
thinking about that and I couldn't really find anything.
It's
I
not
think
like
he
it.
sees him as an easy target, maybe. Just like, oh, like maybe, I don't know. Maybe he is just filled with hate and is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, because the only thing I can think of is like, because Nate knows himself as being kind of like weaker, trying to like hide like in like the like shadows, or like in the corners, of feeling like he's in the shadows or whatnot. So maybe he can also
Mhm.
kind of sense like that in a way about Colin. Like we know, like Colin is kind of like living like a double like life in a way, but
Mhm.
so he's not getting to be like his full self. So maybe that in that way it makes him a little bit like quote unquote weaker, because he's not able to fully express himself as he is.
Yeah.
So, and like during this, like Weird notices like how like what like Nate is doing to Colin there, and kind of like makes like a visual check mark of it to himself, and
Hmm.
like he'll go to Nate here in a little bit, and then like a few scenes later, and like because Nate still just like has like no humility at all. He's letting like all this like stuff go to his head, and Beard
Yep.
telling Nate he was rude to Colin and made it personal and weird.
Yeah.
Wow. Whew. It's you. Sorry. You were rude, Colin. Not just rude. It was personal and weird.
No, you're absolutely right. Did you tell Dad?
No. This is just between me and you. Okay. Do better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which and then has become like one of my favorite gifts too, is of Beard. It just says do better.
Mhm.
And then he tells him the door's there, and then like I like how Nate leaves, and he's like, "Wait, this is my office." And he turns around, and he's like, and then
Beard's
like
gone.
Beard's just gone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Like every time Nate is like a douche to Colin, it just makes me more and more pissed off.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think you guys mentioned this a couple episodes back that you've released. But how like the first time I watched this through, I didn't see it coming with Nate. Like, I mean, until like the end, but rewatching it now, like I see all these subtle things. I mean, it's obviously hard to miss in this episode, but in previous episodes in this season, I could see these little hints and like, Roy coaching now, and he's like jealous of Roy coaching and all this stuff. I feel like it just stands out a lot more on the rewatch. Plus, I mean, there's just so many great lines and like quips and like stuff that you'll miss.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So
Which, speaking of, you probably liked this exchange back and forth in the boot room, where Ted's like, sometimes it's good to bottle things up. That's how we get pickles.
yep, I did. I wrote that in my notes. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, Ted's a pickle lover.
Or vodka.
We
Or
love
extra
pickles.
virgin olive oil.
That's
Or
my
messages.
jam, yeah. Mhm. Message in a bottle. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I just like that whole scene there. And then you get back to the also I like how that scene ends with like Will turning the cleat upside down and just like
Oh yeah, the
all of
cigarettes.
the cigarette butts that fall out of it.
Which were any windows open in there?
No.
Oh,
Although I like that Higgins is smoking a
were they
pipe.
hotboxing it with cigarettes?
I think so.
I think that's
Yeah.
because it's supposed to be like the rancid foot smell, and they're supposed to be covering up the smoky smell, I guess.
Yeah, I think isn't that what they
But
said? They're
wouldn't like
covering
a
up the smell of the
smoke detector?
shoes.
Yeah. Well, that was Keeley's first reason, and then Rebecca comes in and she's like, "Oh, we decided smoking doesn't count in here," and Keeley's
Mhm.
like, "Damn it,
Right.
I've been caught."
So we get back to Dr. Sharon and Ted in therapy again. Ted apologizes for the way he reacted before, and we get two pretty good lines there from Dr. Sharon too, where self-care can be scary, and then the truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off.
Piss you off. Yep.
Yep,
That's a good one.
it is.
I think that's one of the things that ends up being on a bunch of stickers now too, or like pins, or like just Ted Lasso merch in general.
Mhm.
But I like
It's a
his
great
little
quote.
quip. Yeah, like his quip there. He's like, "Oh, so kind of like you." She's like, "All right, well, I deserve that, I guess." But
That's a Gloria Steinem quote.
Nice.
Yeah.
So she stole it, or maybe not.
Mhm.
We get Nate apologizing to Colin there in that scene, and to the team, which in retrospect feels kind of not fully like
He didn't mean it.
Yeah, he got in
He's
trouble
saying
with
sorry
Beard.
because he got caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like Buzz, and Colin is Kevin. He's like, he calls me a trout sniffer now.
That whole listen, no, I know it's not Christmas anymore, but they were so mean to Kevin. We'll get there. We'll do a Home Alone something, but
Yeah. I'll figure a
That's not
way
cool.
out how it connects to Ted Lasso.
Oh, I know you will.
I'll figure. there'll be a way.
Life finds a way.
Yes. Speaking of, this is also the origin of our favorite sound effect, the one that scares Bonnie.
Oh.
Whistle!
Roy.
Whistle!
Doesn't scare me anymore when I know it's coming.
It gave
Also, it
That's what
startled
they
me.
said?
It did not scare me.
I was wondering, I was like, is this the first episode? Based on their reactions, it seemed like it, but I was like, no.
He's like, my lips are allergic to impure metals. Whistles give me mouth hives.
Yeah, which I was like, what about plastic ones? There's plastic whistles. Don't tell him that.
I'm pretty sure Coach Beard has a plastic whistle too. Like his whistle is plastic when he's blown it before.
His whistle is plastic. Okay.
I mean, just ask Jane. But the other thing here too is like I like how this whole scene too is like Roy has this kind of outburst with Jamie, but then with Jamie explaining like why he was doing something gives like Roy this epiphany where he's like, the best thing I can do in this situation is give him space as his teammate. The last thing he needs to do is for me to crowd him.
Which I was wondering, because Jamie did walk in on that conversation, if he was kind of saying it on purpose to Roy. I don't know, because then at the end, Jamie goes like, what? I didn't say anything wrong. So then it seemed like he didn't realize what he was saying. So I don't know.
I don't think Jamie's that self-aware yet to be able to
Yeah,
do that
that's
on
what I was
purpose.
thinking as well.
But
it's still funny that he's the one giving advice to Roy. It's a crazy turnaround.
yeah. And then they give the Wonder Kid kit to Nate. And fast forward to the end of the episode, he is a super huge dick to Will now.
Mm-hmm.
Why be mean to Will? He didn't do anything to you.
I mean, he's been hating on Will the entire season
time.
because Will's being so good at his job,
which used to be his job.
Yeah.
Nate, go to
I think because Nate like suffered through so much of it, and with the other guys like tormenting him, he feels like Will,
like he needs to go through that like gauntlet too.
Like it's not fair that it's like the typical like older and younger sibling thing, how like parents are usually like more strict with the older sibling, and then the younger one comes around and they're like, they have it so easy. It's not fair.
Yeah.
It's life, buddy.
Yeah. And then like from here we go to Ted at the pub, and I know Bonnie had a note here about May's Shakespearean quote to Ted.
My girl quoting Shakespeare, a little 12th Night in there, which I was like, okay, what is that connection to the episode? But it's about love is pain, and love can cause pain. But the show, sorry, spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't read 12th Night by William Shakespeare, it has a happy ending, but there are, of course, hijinks and everything beforehand. So I just thought that was interesting. I was like, out of all the Shakespeare quotes, why that one?
Yeah. And May's usually the one to like spout off like either like Shakespearean stuff like that, or she'll eventually read off like poetry like to Ted too. So I like how like the like layer in like little different like cultured things that May will just kind of spout out from time to time. Which I mean, you have to be able to do that if you're a pub owner. You have to have like good like
you're basically a therapist.
Yeah. In a different way. And I do like.
I just want her to adopt me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'll have to join the three Baz, Jeremy, and
the
Paul?
super fans.
Yeah. Which is funny because her last name is Green, and then like all of their last names are like flowers. So it's like, like she's the gardener to them. But and then Trent comes in there to ask Ted about him leaving the Hotspurs match the episode before, and he's just like, I'm not going to give you all the specific nastiness of that, which I thought was funny. And then we kind of talked about it a little bit, but Roy apologizing to Keeley at the end of this episode, the bath. And the Roy is sorry for not understanding Keeley playlist is a real playlist that you can find on Apple Music, because of course Apple made that actually as a music playlist that you can pick up there. And I know that Bonnie's going to have to leave here very shortly. So is there anything else that you wanted to share that you liked about the episode before you leave us, Bonnie?
I thought it was a good one, and I liked the episode title, and if it was healthier, Roy would have used his words. That's all. Like, just friggin' give people their space and use your words. That's all. But I liked it. It was a good one.
Yeah. And also Keeley needs to talk to him and not everyone else.
Yeah. She needs to use her words too.
Yeah. It's one thing to like get advice, but it just gets tricky in those situations when, you know, ultimately you're the one that needs to deal with it. Like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole thing.
Fair. But we'll let you go, Bonnie. We'll finish out the rest of the episode. But people can find Bonnie at vosuperhero.com.
Yep, that's VO as in voiceover, not BO as in body odor, because sometimes B and a V sounds the same when you hear it. So.
Ugh, that makes me think of BV.
Oh, geez.
You know, there you go.
Now you'll never forget it.
Nope, never. Well, that's a gift for everybody listening. So thanks for having me again.
And Bonnie will be back next time when we talk about episode 8, which I don't remember what the episode title is right now, but whatever that episode is called. So
just like a Marvel title, Bonnie will return in episode 8.
Bonnie Mary Williams, the voice of her superhero, will return.
Will return in episode 8. All right. Well, bye guys.
Man City.
Man
I
City.
looked it up.
That's where I'm going.
Ayo.
All right. Wait. How do I do this? Will it let me out? I think if I
I'll
kick me out. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Bye.
Snap.
And then there was 2.
Henceforth, go to. Now I'm all messed up. Or where? Here we go. So character highlights. Was there any character highlights that you had for this episode?
I mean, definitely, obviously Ted with working through his emotions and his relationship and what he's thought of therapy. And you can see, like, I don't know, just like it's very uncomfortable to watch. And I feel like sometimes we need to see that discomfort in shows because a lot of times it's kind of just like glossed over, or there might just be like one scene, but there was like multiple scenes in just one episode too that I feel like it really hits home his struggle with it. So I think that's a big, like, this is definitely like a big turning point for him. And then I would say probably like Keeley and Roy and their relationship in general, with, you know, like we just talked about, with communicating their feelings to each other. I mean, I don't want to highlight Nate. But like,
I mean, we kind of already said, like as far as like how it goes to like the episode title. Like I had stuff with like Ted with the therapy with like him saying he doesn't quit things. Like if you go back to season 1 with tan lines there with like where he even says that to Michelle, he's like, I told myself I'd never quit anything. And she tells him like, you're not quitting anything, I'm letting you go. Which
sorry, go ahead.
I was probably gonna say the same thing. It was just like, I mean, that's kind of feel like she already had like let him go long before that. So, but
I feel like just the whole not quitting thing is very toxic. Because as someone who grew up constantly hearing from their parents,
pickleballs,
constantly
pickleballs.
For a long time, I liked that idea, but at the same time, it's very toxic to like hear that, because it's okay to quit. For the sake of your mental or physical health, it's okay to quit things. It's not a bad thing.
And that's part of the reason why it's good that Ted is going to therapy too, because there's like the toxic positivity in a way too. Where like some people like give Michelle like crap on there, like just I mean, the show's called Ted Lasso, so it's going to be from his point of reference, but like you could see like how like being around that all the time may have led her to be like, I don't know, reacted to it in a certain way, like not being able to like connect to that, or like him never feeling like he. Mike has said it too, like where he feels like Ted's very surface level about stuff too, with not being able to react like actually like emotionally to everything, or like deflect stuff.
Yeah.
That's why he's got all the like Tedisms, or like the, darn tootin' Vladimir Putin, like stuff like that, or just like making jokes about stuff, which I know a thing or two about deflecting with jokes. So, but the other thing I noticed in this too is he has a line in it where he's like I always say, sometimes the best stew is the one you leave sitting on the stove overnight because you fell asleep watching Citizen Kane after too many beers. And pretty sure Ted has a drinking problem, because from the times we've heard comments like this, that he's like said stuff like that, to like the times we see him drinking when he's depressed, like in Carol of the Bells, like he's got a drink there, or like it was around the episode or just after the episode with him and Michelle deciding to separate, or like Roy visits him and he's like has like the drink there, and he's like aggressively does the Carlton. And you can always tell when he's been drinking too, because his nicely combed hair is like
his hair
poofed down into his face. Or like when he had to sign like the papers in that too, and he lashes out at Nate in that too. Again, that's the telltale sign. His hair is down in his face instead of combed, and he's drinking there too. So,
hello.
Hi. I don't know. What was the last thing you heard me say?
You're asking me?
Yeah, because I don't know where you stopped being able to hear me.
I got nothing. Also, it is freezing in here.
It's super hot here.
It's hot in there. You have a jacket on.
Well, it got progressively warmer in here. I think it was just. Oh, we were just talking about Ted having the drinking problem.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, but yeah, like Ted
Cut.
drinking problem. Yeah, there we go. So my favorite. Did you have any favorite quotes from the episode at all?
I think my only one I already said, where Keeley goes, "Go fuck your cartoon brat."
Nice. So I had 4.
Oh, sorry. There's another one. Was gonna do That's What They Said, but there wasn't enough That's What They Said in the episode. But when Keeley and Roy are both coming into work, but like separately, when they're both coming into work but separately, and Keely's like, "Hi," and then he doesn't say anything, and she's like, "Oh, my morning's been great, blah, blah, blah. Like, I had oatmeal. Oh," like, I don't know, like speaking for him. And then she was like, "It was actually too hot, and honestly, it was too thick, so I burned my tongue on it and almost choked to death." I was like, LOL.
Yeah, that's definitely a good That's What They Said. Surprised you didn't like the one where Keely's like, "Yeah, but you doing exactly what I tell you to is fucking hot."
I think because it's just sometimes with That's What They Said, it's just a little too.
Well, I just mean like
nose.
as a quote in general.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I liked it because same.
So the 4 quotes that I liked in it. So Nate's dad, Lloyd, said, "They say humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking about yourself less." Yes. Higgins, how about that? How about the truth? I'd love to meet up, but I'm worried that you can't live up to the fantasy I've created in my head, so I'm going to let my securities keep me from possibly finding my one true love. What he said to Rebecca. Jamie, Will, do you think you could take me name off me shirt and then put it back on, but bigger? Which is when he walked into the boot room and everybody else was in there. And it's a very quick line and probably doesn't get noticed because of like everything else going on in that scene. But I was like, that's just like a funny kind of like throwaway line. It's like kind of a Jamie line of like still wanting to be Jamie.
Yep.
And then Roy
Sounds about
saying,
right.
to Keeley, I think you're the cat's pajamas, which I think is funny that he uses the term cat's pajamas.
Well, she says that earlier in the episode about him when they're in the boot room.
There you go. But your feet are a fucking state. but who am I to judge? I found so much of my hair down the drain it looked like a rat had got trapped and fucking drowned. Which I brought that up earlier.
So
and
funny.
then we talked about the soundtrack a little bit, but the one that we didn't talk about was By Your Side by Sade, which plays Indeed the Roy's Sorry for Not Understanding Keeley playlist. And you can see more music from that playlist if you check out. I'll put that link in the show notes for this episode too. And then I Feel Free by Cream is the closing theme music or not theme music, but the closing credits episode.
Which is funny because Keeley tells Phoebe to check out Cream after she's listening to someone else. I forget.
And this episode is written by Phoebe Walsh. So there you go. Now, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, you just answered my question. On the internet. Yes, at GTFO channel on Instagram and YouTube. We're kind of in a hiatus of doing stuff right now. We usually do our Trek Retreks every Thursday. And then we talk about other shows and movies and whatnot. But kind of on a hiatus at the moment. But we'll be back eventually.
I've been on that show a few times, so
yes.
Yeah. And then for this show, you can find this episode and every other episode that we've ever done at richmondwaypod.com. And there's links to the Patreon there and the socials and all the things. And if you want to find out what our favorite rom-coms are there, find out what our favorite episodes of the show there. richmondwaypod.com. Thank you for joining us this episode.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Always glad to come.
Oh, yep. Always glad to have you. So for the Richmond Way, for Bonnie and for Mike, who have departed, but they're alive still, that they died. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you again next time in season 2, episode 8.
So until next time, folks, be curious, not judgmental, and keep rewatching. This is Ted Lasso signing off. As the man once said, the harder you work, the luckier you get.